Initiating podcast download. Prepare yourself. Put on your spandex. Lace up your boots. Wrap your wrists. Hide your razor blade. Head to gorilla position. Grease up your hair. Apply baby oil. Okay, apply more baby oil. Get into gimmick. Keep your ears open and your mouth shut. Have fun and be safe out there, brother. Welcome to Iron on Wrestling. Now your host, Gregory Iron.
Hello again, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Iron on Wrestling with Gregory Iron. I'm your host, Gregory Iron. This is episode 268, and I hope you're feeling great, but I hope you're not expecting an interruption from my good, longtime personal, dear friend, Aaron Bauer, because he's not in the building, sadly. I'm in the building. That is my house, and I'm recording this podcast just a few hours removed from returning from 4 days in Washington State and doing some professional wrestling, and I actually have some personal and professional business to attend to this evening as I record this on Monday, November 18th, and I wasn't able to get over to the studio tonight to do this with Aaron. However, I got to make sure you got your content, baby. So here I am recording a show, and I'm going to try to do a little bit of a bonus for Patreon. If I don't do it in audio form today or tomorrow, I'm definitely going to have some extra stuff for you guys this week. And yeah, I'm feeling good, even though I'm whipped from all the traveling, going from the Midwest time zone to the Pacific time zone, Washington, primarily the Tacoma area. This past weekend, I flew out Thursday night, and I was spending some time working with the good folks at Northwest Pro and SOS Pro Wrestling out there, and both very good shows. Very much enjoyed myself out there. Actually, the SOS show was on IWTV, so perhaps maybe you watched that live. If you didn't, you can go watch it on IWTV, and if you haven't signed up for IWTV yet, you should sign up with my promo code IRON. Save a little bit of cash on that, and of course it supports the show, along with patreon.com/ironwrestling, where you get a buttload of bonus content. $3 gets you bonus audio, $5 gets you bonus video, $9 gets you involved with a live chat that we are going to be doing this month, and we will talk about stuff that you will never, ever, 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 ever hear on the podcast. And for the holiday season, we're going to be sending out some packages from Howard Animal Steel in December, but you have to be in the $25 and up tier, and you have to be signed up for that for at least 2 months. So if you haven't done it, do it now, or else you're going to miss out. Sign up for November and December and get the Christmas/holiday package from Iron on Wrestling. It supports the show. It's a great thing to do, and we very much appreciate it. But if you can't support us financially, all you got to do is subscribe to wherever you download podcasts, or perhaps maybe our YouTube. Check some of the stuff out that we have over there. Follow us on social media, and that's all the plugs on that front. But yeah, I spent 4 days in Washington, and JD Mason and Pitfall were good enough to bring me out to their respective promotions, and yeah, I just had a really good time. It was actually my first time out in that area since right before the pandemic. Back then, I did 3-2-1 Battle, and I did a seminar out there, and I was happy to return. I actually did the SOS show on Friday night, wrestled Steve Miggs, a former opponent of mine, when I was out there for DOA wrestling back in the day. And we had our little rematch. And listen, again, I don't like Steve Miggs. Not a lot of people do like Steve Miggs out there. He is not only a pro wrestler, but he does have a radio show out there in the Seattle area, and just, very, very unlikable guy. Very much has a punchable face, and I did punch his face several times. I did slap him in the chest repeatedly, but I came up short. Despite my hatred for Steve Miggs, I got to give credit where credit's due. Despite the fact that the dude's only wrestling for a few promotions out in the Washington and Oregon area, the guy, say what you will about him, he's in the ring training over at the Buddy Wayne School a couple times a week, and he is an actual piece of garbage, but he is a formidable opponent, and I always have a good time in the ring with him, even though he is a big old jerk face. On Saturday, I wrestled for Northwest Pro, but before that I did a seminar, one of my famous Gregory Iron seminars. I had about 6 or 7 kids, and I really enjoy these because we just talk pro wrestling psychology and things that the kids want to get better at, because I've done some terrible seminars back in the day where I just felt like I got my money stolen, and I don't want these kids to have that feeling. And there were, every single individual brought something special to the table, and just the fact that they invested the time and the money into themselves to be a part of my seminar, it means a lot. I might not be a guy that worked major TV, but I have been behind the scenes at, many TV tapings. I used to do stuff for Pro Wrestling Ohio, and I guess in my situation, working with a disability, it allowed me and helped me understand just how important storytelling is, and I always have felt like I have a better wrestling mind than a wrestling body, and I like, giving some of the knowledge that I've acquired over the years, passing it along in hopes that we can make wrestling better and, have some stars for the future going forward. Thank you so much to JD Mason and Pitfall Jones once again for bringing me out. And, of course, the match I had at Northwest Pro was a banger. It was me and Lumberzack. Okay? He's exactly what you would think he is. He's a lumberjack, but he changed his name to Zach. But I think he's a lumberjack ass. And I definitely gave it to him at Northwest Pro. And I'm probably going to be back at Northwest Pro sometime in the not-too-distant future. So if you're out in that area, be on the lookout for me. I'm not that sore. I'm a little beat up, but nothing out of the ordinary for once. But after my series of matches coming up this weekend, where, of course, I'll be appearing at Empire State Wrestling in the Buffalo, New York area, as well as my appearance for Ruthless Pro Wrestling out in Chicago at the old Berwyn Eagles Club in that 4-on-4 4-4-0 death match. I'm going to need to rest for a little bit. I got a lot of nagging aches and pains. I feel like every time I wrestle now, I walk away with some sort of stupid nagging injury. And right now, it's my inner bicep. The muscle hurts a little bit. And, of course, with that being my left arm, it's the only arm I have to use on a regular basis. So I need to relax for a little bit. But that's neither here nor there. Where we're at right now is this episode of Iron on Wrestling. And this week, we're going to answer your questions from social media. We've been getting more and more each and every week, and there's actually a few that we didn't answer from last week that I want to get to. But, of course, Patreon members get priority, and we're going to be answering those questions in a little bit here. But before we do that, I wanted to address something I saw on social media that involved professional wrestling. We talk a lot of psychology and business advice when it comes to how to make independent wrestling business work for you if you're in the business, if you're thinking about getting in the business. And I saw this post from a promoter, and I wanted to read it. And then I guess as I discuss this with you, I'm going to try to grasp an understanding of why this person may have been so offended by this. This person wrote, and this is a promoter out of the Ohio area, piece of advice for anybody looking for bookings. If you post or send a message that says, I can bring a load with me, that automatically gets put in the category of I'll never book them. Here's why. Most of the time, the carload is your buddy and your friends. Most are half-trained referees, managers, or buddies to help you offset the cost. I'm interested in you, not your carload and buddies. Just my experience over the years. I'm not a fan of that mindset and mentality. Okay. So I read this, and then there was like a lot of people commenting because usually, subpar. You know what? I only want to say this person is a subpar booker because their show does draw. However, I think they're stuck in this bubble in their respective area where they run their shows. And this person always posts very holier than thou on their Facebook, like they know everything about the business for some reason. And it always just comes off pompous, I guess. I don't know. There was a lot of people that were jumping on the shitbag bandwagon and saying like, yeah, I totally agree with this. And yeah, I would do the same thing. I would never book a carload. Why? That's the weirdest thing that I've heard. Like, so where do I start with this post? I guess from the beginning. Okay, if you post or send a message that says I can bring a carload with me, that automatically gets put in the category of I'll never book them. Now, okay, I guess context is king. Was this message? I can't even talk. Was this message sent from the person trying to get booked, or was this in response to the promoter inquiring about a booking? Either way, I don't know. I'm just trying to see why it would be so offensive that this person would suggest bringing multiple wrestlers to not only make their life easier, but also offset the costs, which for some reason this promoter seems to think is an issue. Now, I will say, listen, sometimes, yeah, your carload is mostly, I would say most of the time, going to consist of people that you trained with, your friends, managers, referees, because I don't know, like those are people local to your area. And for the most part, I would imagine these are going to be people that you're only getting booked not just because they're friends, but you believe in them. You don't think they suck. Are there going to be guys who offer carloads of people that suck? Yes, I have no doubt about that. But to post that most of the time the carload is your buddy and friends, most are half trained, is that the case? When I think back to, first of all, I still offer the option of carloads if the promoter inquires about other people in my area. I will sometimes offer up a person or two, particularly if it's a longer drive that maybe I want some help with. And, yeah, I would like to lend a hand, no pun intended, to someone that I believe can be making a few bucks and get them another booking. I do like the camaraderie of the car ride. I will say that I've gotten used to traveling alone, though, and I'm cool with that, too, because we are in the age of the podcast and, listening to any song on your phone, and I have no problem traveling like that. But, like, when I would get a carload together when I was younger, let's say, there was never any half-trained individuals in the vehicle. We all had legit training. We were still learning. We're always learning. But it would be like, for example, me and Gargano and M-Dog and Josh Prohibition. Or it'd be me and Gargano and Matthew Justice and Benjamin Boone and Hobo Joe. Or it would be me, Gargano. See, there's a common theme here. And I'm trying to think, like, who else would... Bobby Beverly would travel with us from time to time. Probably leaving someone out. But I don't remember getting a car together and putting someone in the car where I was like, I question this person's work, and I probably shouldn't be getting them booked on a show, but I am. The fact that someone would offer more wrestlers, and that becomes an automatic no book, I don't get it. Do you have to pay out more money? Yeah. If that's the issue, then I don't just deny it. And like, I'm not interested in these people at this time. But also it opens the door of like, well, if you do like these other people that are in that area, it would make it easier on you as the booker to put them in the same car with the guy that you're currently booking anyways, and they're coming from the same place. I don't see the hassle in that. So I don't know. Does anything I say make sense, guys? Do you guys agree with this or disagree? It's just a little pet peeve that I read going through social media because, again, I don't see the harm in trying to offset the cost of the wrestling road trip that, especially if you're a beginner, you're probably not making that much money in the first place. So why not put 2 or 3 other guys in the car and try to save money on gas and don't completely lose your ass? It just sounds to me like the promoter is being very selfish. Now that rambling's out of the way, I'm going to pause for a quick commercial break. When we come back, we will answer your questions from Patreon first and foremost, but then we'll go back to social media, some from this week and some that we missed from last week when we return to Iron on Wrestling. Hey, yeah, you listen to this podcast. I heard a rumor that you're on a health and wellness journey. Is this true? Oh, wait, what? You're not. Oh, what I meant to say is you wanted to get started on a health and wellness journey. Yeah. Wait, what? Oh, you don't? You just want to sit on the couch and just, eat food and slowly rot away? All right, I guess. I mean, that's weird because, you could be on TNT-health.com, the official sponsor of Iron on Wrestling. You could be checking out all the great products that they offer over there. Just in theory, to start getting in shape. It's almost, 2025. Maybe perhaps you could start making some New Year's resolutions like don't be a lard ass. Sorry. I don't mean to offend you. Don't raise your hand to me. Listen, TNT Health has been helping me along my fitness journey, which I've already been on for, over 20 years now. And using the good products over at TNT Health has helped me just a little bit more than I could help myself. Using the creatine before I work out, using the glutamine for muscle recovery post-workout, using their incredible organic protein powder that I mix with water very, very simply, and it tastes just as delicious as using it with milk. It's helped me so much. It's helped me with the gains, and it can help you too. Gains in the positive way instead of the negative way that you've been doing with you're drinking the soda and you're sitting on your lard ass. I'm sorry, I said it again. Okay, and listen, if you need some extra help, I would say reach out to me, but I'm a busy guy. Why don't you reach out to Mike at TNT Health, who's also going to help you count your macros, talk about your nutrition in general, see like how much fat you should be taking in, how many calories you should be taking in. He just doesn't want to sell you products. He wants to sell you results, and he wants to help you along. Get on this journey. We're on the road to TNT-health.com, and of course, once you're on that road and you're checking out the website, seeing the sites on the website, you can save 10% on everything you buy using promo code IRONON. That's IRONON, IRONON. Save 10%, and that includes everything, pre-workout, post-workout, pro hormones, anything like that. Get you some. Get started right now, TNT-health.com, because at TNT Health, it's about your health today, not tomorrow. And, whether it's today or tomorrow, you can always check out the fine artwork of Juan Ortiz and Of the Dead Designs. Have you heard of Juan? If you listen to the show, you did. But if you've never listened to the show, which I find hard to believe at this point, 268 episodes in, you probably should check out Juan Ortiz and Of the Dead Designs because he's made designs for some of the most prominent people in professional wrestling. Not just me and Aaron, not just the podcast, not just Rod Destiny, Hall of Famer, if there ever was one for Iron on Wrestling, but he's made shirt designs that ended up on action figures and in Hot Topic and on the Titantrons when these guys walk to the ring for people in WWE, AEW, Impact Wrestling / TNA, New Japan Pro Wrestling, all over the indies, Ring of Honor, you name it, he has done it. And listen, he just doesn't make designs for wrestlers. He makes it for the common man. No, I'm not talking about Dusty Rhodes. I'm talking about you, yourself, your friend, your loved one, anybody in your life that wants some sort of artwork, some sort of logo, something you just want to hang up in your house. Juan can get it done, and he can get it done with the quickness and efficiently, but also his prices are great. I challenge you to find someone with his credentials who's been doing this for 20 years that can give you the prices that Juan can give you at Of the Dead Designs. Reach out to him, because guess what? If you mention Iron on Wrestling, you're going to save $20 on your first design. That's right, $20 on anything and everything as far as design goes, within reason. You know, don't be a weirdo, but be kind of a weirdo. Reach out to him right now. You can find him on Instagram at Of the Dead Designs, Facebook.com/Of the Dead Designs, or go to his website, ofthedead.weebly.com, because Of the Dead Designs, they bring artwork to life. Okay, now that we're back, we're going to answer some of your questions. And we're going to start from those people that like to pay me the dollarinis over on Patreon, because they're not just Patreon supporters. They're my friends. They're my family. My family. I love you. So let's answer your questions first. So, of course, we start with a non-question from Josh Excellence, who says, not a question, but I implore you, please do not watch the Crow remake that came out a few months ago. It is so bad. I've read bad things about it. I don't know why they found the need to remake this film. I don't think anybody was asking for it necessarily. And how do you top the performance of Brandon Lee back in the original film? And I'll tell you what, this Crow ain't going to influence any pro wrestling characters like it did in the 90s. Am I right? Or am I right? Or am I right? Double J over on Patreon says, favorite wrestling dad other than yours, of course. Also, favorite Thanksgiving dish. Okay, so I had to ask Double J over there, what did he mean? I needed something more specific, like what a wrestler that is also a dad, or one that is like a dad to me. And he said, why not both? I had the first in mind, but I like to hear the latter as well. Okay, a wrestler that is also a dad that I would say is my favorite. I think it's pretty easy, that one. It's going to be Johnny Gargano, and I will say that because technically his son, which makes him a dad, is my nephew. So, and I love my nephew. So I would pick my favorite wrestler dad technically to be Johnny Gargano. But if it can't be my dad, who wasn't a wrestler, he was just a dad of a wrestler, and it can't be Johnny, who's my best friend, but is a wrestler that is a dad, I mean, I would have to say, just some of the dads that I've seen over the years in professional wrestling. Like, well, I mean, Dan the Dad would definitely rank up there. He is a Dan and also a dad. So, and he even portrays one in the ring. He never stops being a dad. And we don't have a lot of guys that are willing to not only just be a father, but one 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And a single father, as far as I know. He clearly is a single father because he's a singles wrestler. So, boom. And, I've always felt like Kevin Owens is a really good dad. Obviously, his last name is not only based off of Owen Hart, but it's based off of his son, Owen, that he named after Owen Hart. So I would say that Kevin probably ranks up there as a good dad. Who's other, like, a good wrestling dad that I really respect? You know what? Josh Prohibition is a great wrestling dad. And again, he's someone near and dear to my heart. He's got two beautiful girls, and he's a good family man. And if you've been listening to the show or know Josh's backstory, you know he stepped away from wrestling forever, not too long ago. And he mainly did that because he just felt it was time, and he wanted to spend more time with his family. And I can respect and appreciate that. But also, I think when it comes to a wrestling dad, if I had to pick one for me, I think it would be Josh. If it wasn't for Probo, I would have been blackballed from wrestling when I started because I had an attitude problem. And he took the time to tell me what an asshole I was being. And because I respected him so much, I was able to see the asshole-ish nature, whatever, that I was showing. And I was able to change my ways before I just, forced myself completely out of the industry. And over the years, not only has he helped me as a wrestler, but as a friend. There was a period of time where for quite a few months we were going to the gym together, and those are experiences that I really appreciated. He's always had an uncanny wrestling IQ, and not only has he helped me as a wrestler and a friend, but there were times when I was a struggling wrestler where he just, he gave me money, and Josh always wanted to see me make it, and that means a lot. And I respect Josh so very much. One other person I would say was a wrestling dad to anybody that he came into contact with was Tracy Smothers. I feel like I bring him up every week now, but you know what? I'm okay with that because Tracy isn't with us anymore, unfortunately, and I need the legend that is Tracy Smothers to live on in all of our hearts and our minds because he was one of a kind. And I didn't mean to rhyme, but I did. So just give me some time, and I'll probably do it again. Okay. Matt Swistak over on Patreon says, thoughts on Adam Cole's tan? He seems to get more yellow every week. I like Adam Cole. There have been some weeks where he looks a little Simpson-ish. I will say that. I'm not going to single Adam out with this self-tan stuff because you know what? Honestly, I've never seen anybody with fake tanner on that looks good that I can think of. I've never seen someone apply fake tanner and been like, you know what, they look better. Even when I applied fake tanner, I definitely looked worse, and most of the time I couldn't do it myself. And sometimes I did do it myself, and I was just streaked the F up, looked like garbage. And even though obviously it's probably going to lead to some sort of skin cancer, I've felt that just doing your fake bake a couple times a week helps for me, and I know some people are against that. That's fine, but I don't know, man. People that wear the fake tanner and it looks good, I would not notice. So if you wear fake tanner, it looks great. Please show me what it looks like because, when I see MJF or when I see Adam Cole, or there's been times, especially when things became HD, where the Miz I feel like was notoriously bad about the fake tanner. I'm trying to think of who else off the top of my head. It's just. And it sucks because wrestling is so cosmetic and it's almost like a requirement. You got to be tan, but it's like if you're going to do it, I mean, make sure it looks good. Jesus. Eric over on Patreon asks, what's making you turn the podcast to more Pokemon and less wrestling? Well, dumbass, it's the fact that you are asking these Pokemon questions that I know nothing about every week. Okay? I know that as of 1999, there was 151 Pokemon with the release of the Pokemon movie. Okay. Beyond that, I don't know much else. I know that I was great with Pikachu, as he was one of my favorites to pick when I would play Super Smash Brothers back in the day. Other than that, I don't know where you're getting this, Eric. Stop asking Pokemon questions, okay? The only thing that I even know that's remotely close to Pokemon is I know the theme song is a banger, okay? And I know that there is a porn parody called Strokemon. Not because I looked into it, because a friend told me that it exists. Yeah, that's it. So that's how I know that. So now quickly I'm going to move on. Juan Ortiz says, can you drop a bar for QT Marshall's diss track towards AJ ahead of their Full Gear match? Also, can you fantasy book the match for Full Gear? I don't know what I could add to the QT Marshall diss track, which I did watch today. It was a pretty basic parody, not too shabby. I don't know what I would add that isn't. I would probably bury AJ a little too much because I legitimately think he sucks and is overrated. And can I fantasy book the match? All I want to do is I want to wish that there are many botches in this contest, and then it makes it to Matthew and Botchamania, because that is how I will watch that match. So that's my fantasy book scenario. I swear to God, I swear to you, if Big Justice and like the fucking Rizzler do run-ins or something, my only fantasy booking scenario, if that happens, that they get hurt. Yeah, again, I know they're children. All right? I know. And yeah, are they probably being exploited? Sure. But you know what? I don't like them. I don't. I'm not a fan. Okay? The fact that there is a Costco verse is fucked. The whole world is fucked. I'm moving on. Juan Ortiz also asked, worst road food going or leaving a show? Did it make you sick after eating it? Um. So, I don't. I got really sick before I got to Abdullah the Butcher's restaurant when that was a thing in Georgia, and I had a little bite of they had like a Chinese food bar, and it was disgusting. I would imagine it was just disgusting food in general. Everybody that bought from there, which includes Derek Dillinger, Zach Gowen, Ben Boone, all of them were very disappointed with their meal. I can't think of anything off the rip that I ate after or before a show where I was like, I shouldn't have done that. But there are many places on the road that I question why people would even go to them. One in particular is when I'm driving down the turnpike. Never in my life have I seen like a Hardee's or a Carl's Jr. at a turnpike. Any type of like burger establishment at a turnpike stop and thought, you know what, I need to stop there for my burger. I don't know why I have that feeling. I don't know why I feel like it would just be disgusting, but that just doesn't interest me at all. I would rather just keep driving and go hungry until I get home. So, not all turnpike food is bad. I just feel like, I don't know, there's something about buying fast food at a turnpike that I just don't like. And perhaps maybe it's because I'm actively on the road or coming from a wrestling show, and I don't want to put something like that in my body. So there's not a lot of good meal choices when you're stuck on the turnpike, and that sucks balls. Let's see what other Patreon questions we got this week, and then we're going to go back and forth between last week and this week. Jake over on Patreon says, two-parter, can you run a spot show called Seasons Beatings, and can I be a ref? And two, how hot was that phone sales girl that worked you? Okay, all right, so let's start with the last part first. This week I posted on social media that about a month ago, my brother and I don't think I mentioned my brother in the post, but we went up to Target looking for wrestling figures. This is something we do. We like the hunt. If I have to, I'll buy them online if I can find them. But I don't mind going to the store looking for a figure. There's something about that special surprise feeling of seeing a figure that you're not sure you're going to see in the wild. You know, it entices me. It gets me high. I don't know what it's like to do the drugs, but there's something that is very euphoric about finding a toy that you're hoping is on that shelf. And we're at the Target in Parma, Ohio, and this girl from AT&T was with a girl that she was training, and she stopped us as we were looking at some NECA Ninja Turtle figures. And she tried to start selling us on, you know, switching her phone provider from T-Mobile to AT&T, how she could save us money every month. And, like, I don't even know why. Usually we would walk away from those people or just ignore them, but we didn't for some reason. And Jake, she was not attractive. Like, she was okay, I guess, but there wasn't any, like, mindset of, like, I'm being sucked into this because it's a cute girl. I don't know what it was that I was just like, I guess I'll listen to what she has to say. And basically the main idea was she said that they would cancel and pay off our own phone, and then she would see how much money she could save us every month. So when it came down to crunching numbers, she came back at me and told me that she was going to be saving me like $45 a month on my phone bill if I switched. And the only thing that I was going to have to pay was the phone bill for the first 2 months was going to be a little higher than the $88 I was being promised, which I was okay with because my normal phone bill, again, was like $133. And she also said that she was going to, you were going to have like no phone bill on the third month. So I was like, sick. So fast forward this weekend as I'm sitting in Washington, $700, nearly $700 was pulled from my account, and I see it from T-Mobile. And I contact this girl about the situation, and I say, hey, I know it's late. I'm on the West Coast right now wrestling, but I was hoping in the morning you could help me with the situation and help me understand why the phone was not paid off. This girl texted me in the morning and said, no, sir, remember like I told you in store, we do not pay off your old device. T-Mobile would bill you what you owe, but as long as you call them and set up a 9-month payment plan, you can get the device paid off, and now with us, you'll never have to worry about paying off another device again. And so I'm like, what the fuck? So I text her back, and I know this is boring, and I'll move on from this quickly after this, but like it's bullshit that like someone would pull a scam like this, especially around the holidays, because like I'm not necessarily hurting for cash right now, but what if I was a single dad or a single mother, and in October I get conned into switching my phone provider that I'm content with, I can deal with, even though it's a little expensive, and I'm getting ready to buy Christmas presents, and then all of a sudden I look at my account in November, right before Black Friday, and I see that $700 is missing because some fucking idiot lied to me in the local store. I sent her a nasty text message back, and I said I switched providers, I guess, to, quote, save money, only to go from paying $130 a month to $168 for a couple months, then next to nothing for 1 month, then $88 a month, all while paying off my old phone at $72 a month if I ever bother calling T-Mobile and setting up a payment plan, which, by the way, I didn't. I'm not going to. What's the point? They already took the money. Might as well just get it over with. Which would make my monthly phone bill now, between two companies, $160 a month. On top of me buying a new phone case and cover, understood, I said very sarcastically. I said, oh, and I got a credit for my phone too? How much was that credit exactly? Because it doesn't seem like it was anything. And then she texts back, you got about $1,000 for trading in your old phone, which the math ain't mathing on that one. That didn't happen. It pays the bill for your phone installment every month. Like, you don't make any sense. It's all this fucking chicanery and weird way of wording things to make you think that you're saving money. So I would suggest never interact with any of these phone providers in the store unless you, A, currently don't have a phone, or B, can get everything spelled out in crystal clear writing. And yeah, I don't know. I'm really pissed off about this. And if there was a way that I could cancel this, I would. But I feel like I'm stuck into it now because they trick you into a contract. So that is that. Jake, as far as your other question, can you run a spot show called Season Beatings, and can I be the special ref? No, I will not be running any show ever. It's not something I'm interested in doing. I understand why you would like a show called Season Beatings. It's a pretty go-to generic name for a December event. I worked several Seasons Beatings in my time. Luckily, much more promoters now are thinking outside the box in terms of names. I did like the event in which Jerry beat me for the Intense title. I believe it was Keep the Change, You Filthy Animal. I mean, I like Home Alone, so I appreciate that reference. It's a little better than Seasons Beatings. So that is that. Now, actually, you know what? We got one more from Patreon, from Dean Chard. Who do you think is the fifth man in War Games, and what do you think would stop the wrestling world next? For example, CM Punk WWE return. For me, he says, it's AJ Lee or an AEW partnership with WWE. And thanks for my birthday box. Okay, so I haven't watched. I don't read the taping results, so I don't know this for sure. Something might change. But it looks as though Bronson Reed is going to be the fifth man on Team Bloodline at War Games, so I'm guessing, even though he said that he would never again team with Roman Reigns, it only makes sense that I think Seth Rollins is on the OG Bloodline team, because he's still got unfinished business with Bronson Reed. So in some cases, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, right? Like, it's got to be one of those situations. Did that even make sense? The enemy of my enemy is my friend. The enemy that joins the enemy of my person that used to be my friend is now my enemy. I think that might work better. I don't know, but I have cerebral palsy, so if it didn't work, please excuse me. I am looking forward to War Games. I still don't think we needed to keep it to 5 guys just because. I think it was fine the way it was, but I think we're going to be pleasantly surprised by the stupidity that we'll get out of Seth Rollins and Bronson Reed. And I mean that in the best way possible. So let's move on to the next question. Dean, the next part of your question is, what do you think would be the next thing to stop the wrestling world? I mean, I don't know. You mentioned an AEW partnership. I could never in a million years imagine that happening, because that would mean that Tony Khan and Triple H need to coexist and like book together, and I don't even want to try to imagine what that looks like. I do think if it happened, it would for sure stop the wrestling world. Boy. If Vince McMahon coming back to the company, Brock Lesnar coming back to the company while they're in the middle of lawsuits, I think that would be pretty world-stopping. I'm sorry, I can't think of anything else offhand that would be like, whoa. AJ would be a big deal, but I don't know if it would be like. It's not going to get like mainstream attention to the extent that you would think. It's been a long time since AJ's been there, which is I would love to see her back. But, I don't think it would be, like, earth-shattering or anything of that nature. Okay, let's go to some questions, maybe some that we missed from last week from social media. Tim Floyd says, favorite Full House moment? Well, I do love Full House, and of course I also love Fuller House. But, it's hard to top not only Uncle Jesse and Aunt Rebecca getting married and Jesse playing Forever on the piano, but also the music video, brother. The music video where him and the twins were in it, and he did the Forever song with the Beach Boys. I do also find the episode where Grandpa Papuli died unintentionally hilarious because he was basically with Michelle for all of 2 seconds, and she was very heartbroken and could not get over it. Plus, I mean, more so the hilarity is in which they cut the scene where Michelle and Grandpa Papuli hug and embrace, and how he's, I'm going to love you forever, Grandpa, and we'll always be together, or whatever the heck she says. And then they fade to the next screen, and Danny has to tell Michelle that Grandpa Papuli had died. I mean, they really shoehorned that into a 23-minute episode. It was rough. Emotionally, but also a lot of unintentional hilarity. Or maybe I'm just a real sicko for thinking that's funny that Grandpa Papuli croaked. Awkward silence. Let's see. Joseph James says, what are your top 3 favorite collectible pieces, wrestling or movie related? Well, okay, so I think I have 2 very collectible movie pieces, actually, that I'm very proud of. You know what? I'm going to go all non-wrestling for this one. In my living room, which I've turned into a half-ass theater, I have a cardboard cutout that was used in a movie theater from A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 5. And so that usually goes for a few $100s. I bet you it would list on eBay for about $400 or $500, just being the original cutout, and I have the box that it goes in. I ended up getting it when I did an autograph signing with Zach Gallen at a Rhode Island Comic-Con, and dude was trying to sell the cutout for Part 3, 4, and 5, and 5 is the funniest one to me because he has the baby carriage, and it says it's a boy. That's the whole story in that movie, is that not Freddy's going to have a baby, but the main girl, Lisa Wilcox, who plays Alice in the film, she ends up having a baby. And, they do have a scene where before making a baby version of characters was a thing, there was a baby Freddy that pops out in one dream sequence. So they really probably should make a baby Freddy figure if they haven't already. I have a wide variety of Freddy figures. Over the years, I've got it signed both by Lisa Wilcox and most recently by Robert Englund. So that piece of memorabilia alone, I would probably value at around, with those signatures, $800 to $1,000, and it just sits in my living room. I'm very proud of that piece. I also have a autographed Super Shredder Ninja Turtle figure from Part 2, which is signed by both Kevin Eastman and Kevin Nash, and I got that in a trade recently. I had a New Generation WWF banner that I do believe was used at either a house show or a WWF meet and greet somewhere in the realm of 1995 to 1997, and I traded this person along with some cash for that item, and I think it was pretty good because I do love Ninja Turtles too, and so I'm really happy to have a signed Super Shredder figure. I would say the third piece of non-wrestling memorabilia that I cherish perhaps maybe would be something that I got from Ben Boone, WWE Extra Extraordinaire, not too long ago. He got me actually a film cell from the Ninja Turtles cartoon series, and it is of Shredder holding a bouquet of roses. And he says he doesn't know why he's holding a bouquet of roses, but it was the funniest one, and he thought it was the one that I would appreciate most, and of course, it is. So, yeah, off the top of my head, those would be my three most cherishable collectible items. And obviously, I love turtles, if you couldn't tell by me naming 2 turtle items. And, yeah, thanks for the question, Joseph. Let's see what else we got here. Let's see. Eddie Only says, should we do a return of Secondhand Smoke? Yes. Yes, Eddie, come on. What are you talking about, bro? Eddie Only needs to come back full-time sooner rather than later. He was one of the more underrated performers. Nikki Mariana says, if you could transform into any animal, what would you choose? An alpaca, duh. And I would go around sniffing mustaches for a grand total of $5 each. $5 a sniff. That's a great deal. I would sniff a mustache for $5. Joseph Lee says, what is the color of a mirror? What kind of trick question is this? Like looking at yourself in the mirror, I guess it would be whatever colors are in the mirror. It doesn't really have a color. The outside of the mirror can have a color. What are you trying to do here? You trying to confuse a man that probably has several pieces of brain damage from concussions, but also cerebral palsy? Like, what are you doing, man? Let's see. Chad, we answered that one last week. I'm sorry. Jim Richardson says, who would win? Randy Orton versus Randy Savage, Bob Orton versus Bob Backlund, Kevin Sullivan versus Kevin Nash, Gregory Iron versus Greg Valentine, Roman Reigns versus Luther Reigns, Jimmy Del Rey versus Jimmy Snuka, and Eddie Guerrero versus Eddie Kingston. That should keep you busy for a while. Okay. Actually, it won't. I see what you did there. People with similar names having matches. I think Savage likes Orton, and Savage puts over Orton. I only say that because also Orton does the diamond cutter, and I think Randy Savage would be okay taking the diamond cutter. Aha. Yeah. And then Bob Orton versus Bob Backlund. Those are two guys from a similar generation, and they probably had some battles back in the day. I would say, based on position on the card, I'd go Bob Backlund. Also, if we're picking a random era, so like in my mind, this is like in their prime. I'm saying Bob Backlund. He is a former WWF champion. If we're going now, I guess I would say Bob Orton because he's still kind of sort of active, and I think Bob Backlund is not in the best health. Kevin Sullivan versus Kevin Nash. I'm gonna go Kevin Nash. I don't think Kevin Nash is putting over Kevin Sullivan, even though he has respect for him. I do think there was potential for like a nice little spooky storyline, and I'm talking like more along the lines of what Kevin Sullivan was doing in Florida, not in the Dungeon of Doom, but there could be something interesting with Kevin Sullivan, Kevin Nash, but I'm going Kevin Nash over. Gregory Iron versus Greg Valentine. Well, if I can get it done quickly, perhaps maybe the match would be in my favor, but sometimes, Greg Valentine, it takes him 30 to 40 minutes just to get warmed up. And if the match goes that long, I think I got to give it to the Hammer. He is a former tag team partner of mine, though, so he might take it easy on me. Roman Reigns versus Luther Reigns. Well, I would say Roman Reigns, but if there's a plate of peas on the line, I don't know. That might get Luther Reigns a little bit hungry. Might take him back to a dark place, younger, into his childhood, and he might fire hard for those peas. And if you know what I'm talking about, you know. And if not, then I hate you. Jimmy Del Rey versus Jimmy Snuka. I'm putting Jimmy Del Rey over anybody any day of the week. Also, to my knowledge, Jimmy Del Rey didn't murder anybody. Eddie Guerrero versus Eddie Kingston. Man, you know what? That would be an interesting battle. Definitely a contrast in styles, but also maybe perhaps a better mesh than you would think because of Eddie's style and all Eddie Guerrero's style, but also Eddie Kingston's love of Japanese wrestling. I think they could have an interesting technical / power type match. I think there's a dynamic there that could work. In the end, I think the underdog, Eddie Guerrero, overcomes the odds and beats Eddie Kingston. So, didn't keep me busy for that long. Al Serrano says, why did Mae Young give birth to a hand? Because that's what the storyline writers wrote. Chris Zauchek says, I really botched that, Zaucha, Zaucha. I don't know how to say it. Favorite Billy Joel song, We Didn't Start the Fire. It's a classic, and I love the remake by Fall Out Boy. Very, very good. Let's see what we got here. I'm scrolling. Let's see. James Caputo says, this might have been answered, but who was your trainer? JT Lightning is the first individual that trained me. He taught me the basics. I think Josh Prohibition did a lot of polishing and gave me a lot of great ideas and ways to incorporate psychology. But I think more importantly, and it's because we were around each other all the time, I really do cite Johnny Gargano as my trainer because, I don't know, we were learning together. And he was always smarter than me, still smarter than me when it comes to that stuff. And I never stopped learning from that guy. And even though, like, we're so close in age and he's like my brother, I would say, yeah, he's more like a mentor. He's given me some of the best wrestling advice, but also life advice, whether he realizes it or not. And, I just respect the heck out of him. Peter Melnick says, have you ever been in a submarine? No, I have not. I am not compelled to be in a submarine. Let's see. What else do we got? Dustin Wheels Lion says, biggest challenge getting started in wrestling for you. Hope all is well, my man. I hope all is well for you as well, Dustin. Biggest challenge getting started in wrestling, walking my ass into the door the first time to pay my $50 to do the tryout. There was a fear that if I was not good at wrestling, it would change my attitude about wrestling. The thing that kept me away from such bad things in this world, that kept my mind focused on positive things, me getting lost in the larger life characters, I thought, what if I lose all that if I suck at wrestling? I'm glad I took that first step because I did suck. I still suck pretty bad, but I've gotten a little better in 18 years. And I think based on the overall life experiences that I have and the people that I've met because of wrestling, the things that I've learned through wrestling, the things that wrestling did to help me grow up, I think stepping into that school, taking that first step, which is the hardest step I've ever taken, but it never got any harder after that, I think that was the biggest challenge in getting started. That's the biggest challenge of anything, is just getting started. So if you have a dream or a goal, something you want to attain, stop putting it off. Just do it. Don't listen to what people are telling you. Because if I listened to everybody who told me that I couldn't be a wrestler, I wouldn't be talking to you on this podcast right now. So let's continue. John Zimmerman says, how can you mend a broken heart? Oh, boy. That's deep. It's deep, John. I hope you're not yourself going through a broken heart situation, but I would imagine that maybe you are if you're answering this question, asking this question, rather. Through my worst of breakups, sometimes I would put notes in my phone of all the bad things about the person and the things that we didn't have in common. When I start having those rose-colored glasses applied and start longing for the things, the good times that I missed, I would list all the reasons in my phone why that person wasn't necessarily the best for me, and that helped a lot. I think focusing on more productive things is a good way to mend a broken heart too, but also just being open about it, talking with someone, sharing what you're feeling, and having that person's feelings bounce back at you, or just knowing that perhaps maybe this person that you're sharing your experiences with right there in that moment has had similar experiences, and then they talk to you about how they cope with it. I think sharing is the most important thing that we can do, right? You're listening to me on this podcast, and I'm a vulnerable mother effer, and I think my vulnerability draws people in to me. And I would just say don't just be open and honest with others, but be open and honest with yourself, and really think about too, when it comes to that situation, like what led to this breakup, and even perhaps what did you do that may or may not have caused the breakup, whether it was intentional or not. Maybe there's some introspection you need to take, some changes you need to make. And one of the hardest things is owning up to those mistakes to yourself. And then once you can do that, then you actively begin to make the change. And I think that is all very, very critical and important, especially with your broken heart and mental health. Jim Baker asks, what's your favorite backstage rib story? I'm assuming you perhaps being one that I've taken part in. This didn't happen backstage. I don't know if I've ever shared this on the show. Perhaps maybe we did it during the Bobby Beverly interview. But I'm only thinking about this because I was just telling J.D. Mason about this out in Northwest Pro Wrestling. And Bobby Beverly used to sleep over my house when I lived with Johnny Gargano. And one of Bobby's favorite things to do was watch this pretty infamous music video with highlights from the famous Tiger Mask and Dynamite Kid match. And it was to the tune of, what was it again? Oh boy, hold on. The song, I know the song, but the name is escaping me. Don't Stop Believing, Journey. How could I forget that? So, I don't know, I got bored one day. I think at the time I was unemployed, and I got up before everybody, and I made a video that started with that music video and that song, and then the song cuts into just a compilations of botches from Bobby Beverly's early career to the song How Do You Want It by Tupac. And Bobby definitely fell for it when Johnny and I called him into the room. We're like, hey, come in here, watch this video. We want to watch Tiger Mask and Dynamite Kid music video again. And then it cuts into his botches, and he was really pissed. And every now and then he still texts me and says, dude, take that video off YouTube. When people search my name, it's the first thing that comes up, and I hate them seeing it, and I will die before I remove that video from YouTube. So that is that. Also, again, because I'm a morbid guy, at the end of the video, if you watch that video in its entirety, which is entitled Bobby Beverly, The Early Years over on YouTube, if you wait till the very, very end, there's a in loving memory of Benny Kearns at the end. He was a young man that used to come to training with Bobby Beverly. Sometimes he would give him rides to training. And unfortunately, at some point, he stopped coming to training. He didn't die, but I thought it would be funny because we never really knew what happened to him after he stopped coming to training. If at the end of the video, just to pop Bobby, I put in loving memory of Benny Kearns as if he passed away. And years later, I posted that video again, and for some reason, I get a comment on the video that says, dude, what the fuck? And I look, and it's Benny Kearns, who is not dead. So he's probably wondering why a video that I edited had said, created the assumption that perhaps maybe he had tragically passed on. But he is still alive, to my knowledge. So that's one of my funnier ribs. I know it's not as good as, injecting, the British Bulldog with milk or something and having him almost die from that instead of steroids. But, the ribs nowadays are, in my time, much more harmless. Chris DeJoseph comments, who is the greatest booker of all time? Ooh, a good question. Chris, who was also, what was his name in? Oh yeah, Big Dick Johnson. We've recently become Facebook friends. Chris, it might be you if you want to book me for something. What's up? Greg Iron here. Yeah, no, I'm not gonna suck up. Greatest booker of all time. Triple H is doing a pretty good job right now. I don't know if I'd say greatest though, but he's pretty high up there pretty quickly. I'd say Dutch Mantel, Jerry Lawler, their Memphis stuff. I don't know. I've always really loved going back to Memphis wrestling, and I think it's the best of everything. If you like pro wrestling, there's something for everybody in the old 80s, 90s Memphis wrestling. Uh, Pat Patterson was more of a finish guy, I guess, but he did help with the booking. I would say Pat Patterson has to rank up there, and I guess yeah, I don't know who else I would pick. I think those would be my top choices. Corey Frizzle asked best Billy Bob movie. I'm assuming you mean Billy Bob Thornton. I think the easy answer to that would be Sling Blade. It is a classic. You know what? Honestly, the more I'm thinking about it, I don't. I haven't seen a lot of Billy Bob Thornton movies. Pushing 10, only because I like John Cusack. I would say I don't know if it's the best, but I mean I like the movie. Armageddon, I think's got to rank up there, right? Bad Santa is hilarious. I would probably go Sling Blade 1, Bad Santa 2, Bad Santa 1, not Bad Santa 2. I've never watched Bad Santa 2. Perhaps maybe it's good. But yeah, I don't know a lot of films from the Billy Bob Thornton category. I'm so sorry. Let's see. Okay, this is a good question. Greg Knowlton says if you could make a wrestling action figure based on any weird or infamous moment segment, what would it be? You know what? Mattel should not give me the power to come up with ideas like that because I'm only going to pick the worst stories and toy setups of all time. I'm 100% releasing the inside of a church, complete with casket, and Triple H in a big freaking machine shirt and cane mask, of course with Katie Vick inside the casket. I do believe that there should be a not just so we got the Eric Bischoff with the old man mask. We should also get Billy and Chuck, Rico, Stephanie, and 3-minute warning, and that whole wedding set. We need our wedding set for our professional wrestling rings. I don't think we've ever got one. I think that's an actual good idea. If you want to make it more tamer, why haven't we gotten, and I know they don't have Macho Man's licensing right now, but when they get it back, we need Macho Man and Elizabeth from SummerSlam 1991 with the wedding setup. What are we doing here, Mattel? Let's get it going. There's a bunch of really other shitty ideas that I can come up with, but I'm trying to keep it short here, brother. So let's move on. Let's do a couple more, and we're going to wrap this bad boy up. Todd Brantley says, thoughts on Dave Meltzer, positive and or negative, and do you think too many fans and people in the wrestling business overvalue his opinions? Last part first, I do think a lot of people overvalue his opinions. I think too many people try to wrestle for the Dave Meltzers of the world, not just necessarily Dave Meltzer, but I think there's too many guys that wrestle for the other workers, or well, not even other workers, like for fan validation on social media. Like there's so many guys that I see do their matches, they immediately go to the back and they're looking on their phone, seeing what they're saying about watching their live match on IWTV. And that's not what's important. You got to be present in that moment, and you have to have the crowd. I think that's the most important thing. There's a lot of negative that Dave Meltzer says because I think a lot of his stuff nowadays is much more opinion-based than it used to be. Though if you go back and read his old stuff, you see he's very often offering his opinions and kind of comes off in a douchey way. But I would say the overwhelming positive thing about Dave is that he has, kind of kept track of wrestling history in, for the most part, a decent way, through him cataloging all the matches and reports from shows and the history throughout the years. I think without Dave, there might be a lot of loopholes in pro wrestling history. So it's a good source to go to find out what was happening at a particular day, week, and time. And I do think there is value in that, especially as a wrestling historian. Antonio Donofrio says, favorite video game you've been playing lately? You know what? I went back recently and I played Shovel Knight, which was like a 8-bit style or 16-bit style game that came out a few years back that was downloadable for PS3. I don't have any recent games that I play necessarily. I did hook up my RetroPod not too long ago, and I was trying to play some Nintendo stuff, some side-scrollers that I've never played. I can't tell you their names off the top of my head because I forgot what they were. But I can tell you that I recently was playing the old Star Fox for Super Nintendo. And this past weekend when I was in Washington, I got to play a little Mario Kart for the N64, first time in a while. But I don't really keep up with modern games, so if that's what you're hoping for, I can't help you there. Let's end it with this one. Riley Swearer says, have your goals changed since first becoming a wrestler? If so, how? Yeah, they've 100% changed. When I became a wrestler, the main goal was to prove people wrong. That chip on my shoulder was driving me, was running my life, and I wanted to prove to the people that had always told me that I couldn't do the things that I wanted to do, that I couldn't live the dreams that I wanted to live, that I was going to be a pro wrestler. And I don't think I thought it was very realistic, but the goal was I want to go to WWE and I want to make a bunch of money. And it wasn't necessarily like I want to be rich. I want to have a bunch of money and be able to live comfortably, right? Like that was the mindset. As time went on, I think the goal became, and this is through human interaction, introspection, and just, business and real life experience. The goal became to not worry so much as to what other people think, tell a great story, allow people to forget about their pain for a few minutes while watching me perform. I endure the pain in that ring so you don't have to endure that pain in your life. And perhaps maybe that's a little too deep for some people, but I remember what it was like to be on the other side of the guardrail. I remember what it was like to just be the fan sitting at home watching on TV. And I remember the feeling of no pain when I watched pro wrestling. And whether you want to believe that or not, when you get into this business as a performer, at least one person is going to see something you do, and they're going to be touched by it in some way. They're going to be entertained by it in some way. They're going to hold value in some way in your performance, or just you as an individual that perhaps maybe you don't even understand. There's a power in that. And I think that's those are some of my biggest goals now, are to obviously, make sure that people can get lost in the action while I'm involved. But also, I still want to make money. But more importantly, I want to share my experiences with other wrestlers in hopes that they can get better. And I just want to contribute artistically. Right now, it's still in the physical sense, right? Like I'm still in the ring every weekend doing that. But my dream now is I really, really want to be able to do something behind the scenes as my career winds down. I would love to do some producing or writing. I think the two things that I would be best suited would be writing or training. Not the physical aspect, but the psychology aspect. There's some physical stuff, obviously, but being able to see the ideas that are thrown at me from the wrestlers and from other writers, and then pick it apart find the little things that make it a little bit more realistic. I think that's a strong suit of mine. And, yeah, that's the goal. Just make a little bit of money and be artistically fulfilled, help others, and inspire others through my performances or the performance that I'm helping another individual with. So that's where I'm at in my life. Yeah. At some point, Gregory Iron grew up. I don't know when, where, or even how. But perhaps it's that positive social circle that I often talk about. The people you place around you help shape who you are. So pick the right people to be in your life. And I'm rambling, Riley. I hope I answered your question to the best of my ability. I'd love to keep talking, but I'm pooped. I got to get some rest. I want to edit the show and get it out for you guys as quickly as possible on Patreon. Of course, if you're listening on Patreon, it's out early. If not, this is Wednesday, and the show's already 2 days old. So why are you doing that to yourself? Why don't you get the show when it's fresh out the oven? Go to patreon.com/ironwrestling. Sign up for the $3 tier. It's the best way to support the show, as I talked about at the top of the podcast. But also, hey, I didn't mention this. I'll follow you back on social media so we can DM each other. You can talk to me at any point about anything. Talk to you guys usually more than my own family and friends. You guys have become my family and friends. So, what are you waiting for? Sign up for patreon.com. Support the show. Subscribe to us on YouTube, wherever you download podcasts. Leave a 5-star review on any of those podcast platforms, particularly iTunes. It helps create visibility for the podcast when we say how sweet we are, and other people will listen to our show, and we can all grow together. Follow us on social media at Iron on Wrestling. Follow me on social media. You can find me at Gregory Iron on X, though I don't know how much longer. I might be leaving. If you guys have been experiencing with the blue sky thing, let me know. I'm interested. Perhaps maybe that's somewhere I'll go, or maybe it'll just fizzle out pretty quickly like I feel like Threads did, but I think I'd rather be on there than X. Instagram, Gregory_Iron, Facebook.com/The Handicapped Hero. You can book me for pro wrestling, motivational speaking, and pro wrestling seminars. Just send me a DM. ProWrestlingTees.com/Gregory Iron for my shirts, Aaron shirts, Iron on Wrestling shirts, Rod Destiny shirts, and much more. All these shirts are out of print, and you're only going to get them at that store. So go check them out. Cameo, if you want a shout out of some sort from me, especially with the holidays coming, Turkey Day, anything, I can shout you out. And it's a great way to support me through the old Cameo. He's not here, but I'm sure Aaron would want to plug his Feet Finder or his OnlyFans, but more importantly, his social media. You can find him at Fair to Air, at Fair to Aaron. Follow him on social media. He is my boy. I couldn't do this show without him, though some weeks I have to. I'm getting too old for this shit, but I love it. I love entertaining you guys. I love sharing these stories with you guys. And, hey, if you're on Patreon, leave me some more questions and comments, okay? I can keep these in the barrel for these episodes when I do these just coming back from the road. So thank you so much for listening, for investing your time and energy into little old me. And if you're in Buffalo this Friday, make sure you see me at ESW, Empire State Wrestling. And if you are perhaps by chance Saturday in Chicago, if you want to see the culmination of a lot of things happening with the 440 versus 440 in a death match at Ruthless Pro Wrestling, Berwyn Eagles Club, Berwyn, Illinois. Be there or be square. And I'm pretty sure it's on IWTV as well, so you can check it out there as well. So maybe you won't be that square. That's it. I'm done for this week. Tune in to Patreon later in the week for more bonus content. Till then, I think I gotta give you a kiss goodbye. Bye-bye.